हे एवरीवन, यू आर वाचिंग MS NCERT स्टडीज। आज का हमारा टॉपिक है क्लास 12 इंग्लिश बुक फ्लेमिंगो का चैप्टर 1 द लास्ट लेसन की रीडिंग। ओके, तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं आज की इस वीडियो को। लेट्स बिगिन। द लास्ट लेसन अबाउट द ऑथर Alphonse Daudet 1840 to 1897 was a French novelist and short story writer. The last lesson is set in the day of the Franco-Prussian War 1870 to 1871, in which France was defeated by Prussia, led by Bismarck. Prussia then consisted of what now are the nation of Germany, Poland, and part of Austria. In the story, the French district of Alsace and Lorraine have passed into Prussian hands. Read the story to find out what effect this had on life at school. I started for school very late that morning and was in great dread of scolding, especially because M. Hamill had said that he would caution us on participle, and I did not know the first word about them. For a moment I thought of running away and spending the day out of the door. It was so warm, so bright, the birds were chirping at the edge of the wood, and in the open field back of sawmill the Persian soldiers were drilling. It was all much more tempting than the rule of participle, but I had the strength to resist and hurried off to school. When I passed the town hall, there was a crowd in front of the bulletin board. For the last 2 years, all our bad news had come from there. The lost battle, the draft, the order of commanding officer, and I thought to myself without stopping, what can be the matter now? Then, as I hurried by as fast as I could go, the blacksmith watcher who was there with his apprentice reading the bulletin called after me, "Don't go so fast, Bub. You will get to your school in plenty of time." I thought he was making fun of me and reached M. Hamill Little Garden all out of breath. Usually, when school began, there was a great bustle which could be heard out in the street, the opening and closing of desks, lesson repeated in unison, very loud with our hand over our ear to understand better, and the teacher grade ruler rapping on the table. But now it was all so still. I had counted on the commotion to get my desk without being seen, but of course the day everything had to be as quiet as Sunday morning. Through the window I saw my classmates already in their places, and M. Hamill walking up and down with his terrible iron ruler under his arm. I had to open the door and go in before everybody. You can imagine how I blushed and how I pretended I was, but nothing happened. M. Hamill saw me and said very kindly, "Go to your place quickly, little Franz. We were beginning without you." I jumped over the bench and sat down at my desk. Not till then, when I had got a little over my pride, did I see that our teacher had on this beautiful green coat, his frilled shirt, and the little black silk cap, all embroidered, that he never wore except on inspection and prize day. Besides, the whole school seemed so strange and solemn. But the thing that surprised me most was to see on the back benches that were always empty the village people sitting quietly like ourselves, old Hauser with his three-cornered hat, the former mayor, the former postmaster, and several others besides. Everybody looked sad, and Hauser had brought an old primer thumbed at the edges, and he held it open on his knees with his great spectacle lying across the pages. While I was wondering about it all, M. Himmel mounted his chair and, in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me, said, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the school of Alsace and Lorraine. The, the new master come tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive." What a thunderclap these words were to me! Oh, the breeches! That was what they had put up at the town hall. My last French lesson? Why, I hardly knew how to write. I should never learn any more. I must stop there. Then, oh, how sorry I was for not learning my lessons, for seeking bird eggs or going sliding on the Saar. My book that had seemed such as a nonsense a while ago, so heavy to carry. My grammar and my history of the saints were old friends now that I could not give up, and am Hamel too. The idea that he was going away, that I should never see him again, made me forget all about his ruler and how cranky he was. Poor man, it was in honor of this last lesson that he had put on his fine Sunday clothes. And now I understood why the old men of the village were sitting there in the back of the room. It was because they were sorry too that they had not gone to school more. It was their way of thanking our master for his 40 years of faithful service and of showing their respect of the country that was there no more. While I was thinking of all this, I heard my name called. It was my turn to recite. What could, what would I not have given to be able to say that dreadful rule of the participle, although very loud and clear, and without one mistake, but I mixed up on the first word and stood there holding on the my desk, my heart beating and not daring to look up. I heard M. Himmel say to me, "I won't scold you, little friends. You must feel bad enough. See how it is. Every day we have said to ourselves, Bah, I have plenty of time. I have little. I will learn it tomorrow. And now you see where we come out. Oh, that's the great trouble with Alsace. She puts off learning till tomorrow. Now those fellows out there will have the right to say to you, how is it you pretend to be Frenchmen and yet you can neither speak nor write your own language, but you are not the worst, pure little French we were all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. Your parents were not energized enough to have you learn. They preferred to put you to work on a farm or at the mill. You so as to have a little more money. And I, I have been to blame also. I have not often sent you to water my flower instead of learning your lesson. And when I wanted to go fishing, did I not just give you a holiday? Then, from one thinking to another, M. Hamill went one to talk of the French language, saying that it was the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it, because when a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their Persian. They then he opened a grammar and read us our lesson. I was amazed to see how well I understood it. All he said seemed so easy, I think, to that I had never listened so carefully. And that he had never explained everything with so much patience. It seemed almost as if the poor man wanted to give us all the new before going away, and to put it all into our head at one stroke. After the grammar we had a lesson in writing. The day M. Hamel had new copy for us, writing in a beautiful round hand. France, Alsace, France, Alsace. They looked like little flag floating everywhere in the schoolroom, hung from the rod at the top of our desk. You sought to have seen how every one set to work, and how quiet I was. The only sound was the scratching of the pen over the paper. Once one battles flew in, but nobody paid any attention to them, not even the littlest one, who worked right on tracking their fish hooks as if that was French. Too, on the roof, the pigeon cooked every loaf, and I thought to myself, will they make them sing in German? Even the pigeon. Whenever I looked up from my writing, I saw M. Hamill sitting motionless in chair and gazing first at one thinking, then at another, as if he wanted to fix in his mind just how everything looked in that little schoolroom. Francie, for 40 years he had been there in the same place, with his garden outside the window and his class in front of him. Just like that, only the desks and benches had been worn smooth. The volunteers in the garden were taller, and hoping that he had planted himself twined about the window to the roof. How it must have broken his heart to leave it all. Poor man, to hear his sister moving about in the room above, packing their trunks, for they must leave the country next day. But he had the courage to hear every lesson to the very last. After the writing, we had a lesson in history, and then the babies chanted their ba baby bo boo. Down there at the back of the room, old Husser had put on his spectacles and holding his primer in both hands, spelled the letter with them. You could see that he too was crying, his voice trembled with emotion, and it was so funny to hear him that we all wanted to laugh and cry. Ah, how well I remembered it, that the last lesson. All at once the crunch clock struck 12, then the Angelus. At the same moment the drums of the Persian returning from drilling sounded under our window. M. Himal stood up very pale in his chair. I never saw him look so tall. My friend, said he. Aye, but something choked him. He could not go on. Then he turned on to the blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and peering on with all his might, he wrote as large as he could, Vive la Francis. Then he stopped and leaned his head against the wall, and without a word he made a gesture to us with his hand. School is dismissed. You may go. Thank you.